Before I get started, I want to take a quick moment to thank you for being an echo of love to others by sharing my YouTube videos. Every time you tell someone about a topic that touched you, it helps create a ripple effect of love, changing more and more lives and relationships. May each one of us be an echo of love to one another. Hi everyone, welcome to Echoes of Love. My name is Jack and I am a spiritual companion. In my last video, I talked about communication, our words and our anger. Today you are invited to look at the wounds that were brought about by hurtful words and actions. If you want to know more, keep on watching. As I've said in my previous video, we've all experienced the healing, soothing, and uplifting power of words. It only takes one thoughtful remark to shift a person from despair to hope for the future. Even though nonviolent communication is a powerful model of communication, it goes far beyond that and is a much more comprehensive approach. It's a way of being, thinking, and acting in the world. Its goal is to foster genuine human connections, the kind that make it possible for everyone's needs to be met through generous giving. In Marshall Rosenberg's nonviolent communication methods, he states that it helps us connect to our divinity and to what is alive in us. Brené Brown once said, "Compassion is not a virtue, it is a commitment." To put it another way, if we practice nonviolent communication, we learn how to give from the depths of our hearts. We can't have love without compassion. And when it comes in giving, we only give back what we've already received and possess. There are three factors why some of us respond violently and some compassionately in similar situations. First is the language that we have been educated to use. Language modeled by our parents, caregivers, guardians, teachers made an impact on how we communicate now. Just imagine how your parents communicated to you or is still communicating to you. Now focus on how you are communicating with yourself, with others. Do you see or hear any similarities? Second, how we were taught to think. Were you taught to think in black or white, right or wrong? Or were you taught to listen to others' thinking and feelings? And third, how we were taught to communicate. How did your parents communicate their needs, feelings, and opinions? Were different opinions welcome at your home? Were your feelings readily accepted by those you love? In other words, when we speak, we impart something to those around us. Whether or not people listen to what we have to say can be determined by the power of our words. It's hard to imagine how we could continue repeating the same patterns, both emotional and psychological, if we weren't aware of the power of words. Yes, our words are like a two-edged sword that pierces both ourselves and those we encounter. Since our communication patterns and the underlying emotional habits that drive them are learned, we can unlearn and retrain them. In order to live the kind of life and raise the kind of generation we want, we can learn to speak and listen in a new way. To be able to choose our words deliberately, we must train both our words, our minds, and even our hearts. From the words of Paul to the Galatians, keep watch on yourself, lest you be tempted. The temptation to curse and blurt out hateful words is really strong when we are consumed by fear, frustration, unmet expectations, and needs that translate to anger or violent words. Now, what are the process of nonviolent communication? Observations. Observe without evaluating. We need to clearly observe what we are seeing, hearing, or touching that is affecting our sense of well-being without mixing any evaluation. We observe based on what we see. For example, that is a chair. While we give evaluation based on how we perceive things. For example, that is the most comfortable chair I've sat on. Feelings. Say what you feel. A common confusion that I myself had difficulty in was to use the word feeling without expressing a feeling. For example, I feel I didn't get a fair deal. Was I talking about what I felt? No. I talked about my experience. We are often caught up with what we think and what we feel. Instead, what is the feeling behind that? I feel disappointed for not getting a fair deal. Talking about what we feel is a challenge. Like we heard earlier, we were conditioned on how to communicate when we were weeks old. And as we grew old, it is common that some parents discourage their children to feel and talk about their feelings. And it will take some time practicing to build a vocabulary of feelings. Now reflect on this. How are you likely to feel when your needs are met? And how are you likely to feel when your needs are not met? Allowing ourselves to be vulnerable by expressing our feelings can help us be present to ourselves at the present moment. To ask, what am I really feeling underneath this happiness, sadness, anger, or fear? It is to feel our feelings. Needs. We are unlikely to connect to another human being unless we are connected with our own needs. This is not something most of us are taught as children, and generally it takes time and practice to develop the skill. In fact, as children, we are sometimes actually taught to deny our own needs, just like feelings are put aside. But we have to realize that if we express our needs, we have a better chance of getting them met. But then again, let's highlight the words "we have a better chance." It is leaving room for the receiver to say yes or no to your request. The question here now is, how do you accept rejection or the word no? Request. We have learned to express our observations, feelings, and needs without criticizing, analyzing, blaming, or diagnosing others, and in a way likely to inspire compassion as we request for actions that might fulfill our needs. How do we express our requests so that others are more willing to respond compassionately to our needs? Human communication involves so much more than what we say. It includes how we speak, our tone of voice, volume, and pace, which transmits a wealth of information about how we're feeling, what we think of another, and how much power we do or don't have, and so on. We are dangerous when we are not conscious of our responsibility for how we behave, think, and feel. To be able to communicate effectively, you must first be aware of how you communicate. When we are aware of what we are thinking and feeling, we are able to express ourselves with authenticity and clarity, while at the same time showing respect and empathy for the feelings of others. May each one of us be an echo of love. See you next time in my next video.